Good evening, everyone. A very warm welcome. Monday, 8 p.m, and we are back. It is the Online Darts Live Lounge with me, Phill, Jack Garwood, and Liam Riley is joining us today because Boise is off sunning himself on some tropical island somewhere. I'm not sure where he's. Canaries, I think. Somewhere. Anyway,
was it Tenerife? I made that up.
Yeah. He's enjoying himself somewhere. So he's just getting some sun before the match play, shall we say? As if Blackpool's
Do we
not
think
going
he's?
to be sunny enough.
Do we think he's preparing for a Monday wedding?
Either that, or he's gone away for some secret work, and he's going to come back with an outstanding pair of white teeth or something like that, Simon Cowell style. But you never know. Gentlemen, good to have you on board as always. Chat room, welcome along. Been a busy weekend of darts, busy week coming up as well. All eyes lead to the Winter Gardens. How we doing? Daniel, James, Carl is in as well. Owen, Matthew, Rose, how are we all doing? But look, all eyes this week with the Euro Tour. Luke Humphries, king of Europe at the moment. We had the seniors, Robert Thornton doing Robert Thornton things. So much darts going on. We had the ADC stuff, which I didn't see any of it, but it looked amazing. The bits I saw on social media. It's just literally every week there is something going on right now.
There is, and that makes it harder for us to cover because me and you were in the same place, which meant we missed the other two.
If in doubt, we'll blag it. It's all good. It's what we do. We talk darting nonsense and fill in the gaps. But no, look, it was a wicked weekend in Hull. Good to have Matty Edgar in the press room with us on comms as well. We'll talk about that later on. But yeah, we got there on Thursday. Got to the bonus arena, and it's a tiny little place to have tournaments.
It's not little, but it is very, very good. Yeah, look, I couldn't help but be impressed. It's a stark contrast to what we've seen so far on the Seniors Tour, being that we've been to two quite historic venues that didn't. Lakeside is a perfect size and layout for darts, but it wasn't built as a entertainment venue. So things for food, drink, Wi-Fi, connectivity, lighting, and all that sort of thing are sort of second thoughts at the tavern and at the Lakeside compared to what you can do in a modern environment. And I just thought that the bonus arena was a step to the future for the seniors. And I really enjoyed being there.
Yeah, Liam, how did it come across on TV, the arena?
Yeah, we talk about the nostalgia with the other two venues, but in terms of crowd-wise production, I actually thought it was the best one yet in terms of seniors event. It seemed really good. I've seen a couple of pictures online as well. Looked like a really good darts venue. Now, I admit I don't know much about Hull over here, but from what I could hear on the TV, it seemed really, really good, and it seemed like there was a good crowd there that this weekend or last weekend as well.
Well, the first thing you need to have Hull, it has two Witherspoons within very close proximity of each other.
The only thing I know about Hull is the Only Fools and Horses episode when they buy a boat and try and get across to Holland.
But to be fair, you laugh. That was one of the options we were looking at to get gone home last week. No, but also, chat room, let us know what you think. How did the bonus arena come across on TV? Like I say, we were there and it was good. It had a real good vibe to it. How did that come across and translate to TV and viewing? It'll be interesting to see and hear everyone's thoughts. So we'll jump straight in. We'll start with the seniors because it was the one we were at and arguably know most about. There is the draw bracket. So where are we? Right, let's get it up there. So yeah, look, Phill Taylor kicked off the Friday night, and let's be fair. After Friday, he obviously Dieter beat Trina, but then when Phill played Dieter, there were more questions than answers after the performance, boys.
Yeah, look, after making the final of the Masters just a few weeks ago and starting to look a little bit more like Phill, I don't think we're ever going to see Phill Taylor, 16-time world champion, bowing out at the very, very top of the game by winning the PDC Matchplay again. That guy isn't in there anymore. Phill was on a little bit of a decline then anyway, and after not picking his darts up really following that retirement, then 2 years of COVID, is a long, long way from that. But I think that the level we saw in him reaching that Masters final, and then again, spoiler alert, and making the final of this one, is competitive, what we can expect. And actually, if he sharpens up on the doubles, I don't think the scoring was a million miles away an awful lot of his performances. It was just how far away he was missing doubles. But yeah, like you said, the match against Dieter on the Friday night, I couldn't help but be concerned at that point that he'd done no work again. And he admitted he'd done no work again. But with it being so close to the Masters, I thought just a couple of sessions might tie him over, give him that bit between his teeth, get beaten in a final. He won't want that to happen again. And look, for the rest of the tournament, we'll probably talk about this when we get there, but I think the draw worked perfectly for Phill in terms of providing motivation.
Don't worry, I've got some clips teed up. Don't you worry about that one. But Liam, what was your thoughts on Phill on night one?
Yeah, I mean, I know I said it was a tough watch on Friday evening. I just felt that, I mean, it looked like I know Phill is never going to quite hit that level again that we saw him maybe in his last year, but I just felt like it was a million miles away from that. And I suppose with some of these seniors events, you always question, is this the last time we might see one of these players playing in an event? And it was so far below his level. I mean, it was all over the place on that Friday night. And we're thinking at one stage that Dieter, when she took that big, I think, was it a 158 she took? I could be wrong with that, but it looked like Dieter could have taken control of the match. It was only Taylor started to improve at the back end of the match that made him pull away a little bit, but a 75, 76 average is certainly not the Taylor we've ever seen before on that Friday night, and I was concerned for him.
Yeah, no, agreed. Yeah, Owen, we'll come on to the Euro Tour after this, mate, but yeah, fully agree. Lendl, it's a balancing act. As we all know about, you still have to have people that sell tickets in there. So yes, look, it's a balancing act, and the seniors, it will move more towards ranking bases in time. But to start with, Gob, it's something that we've spoken about. You still have to have those names in there.
Yeah, look, it's going to be key to the rest of the organisers about striking that balance, the performances, the level that we're seeing at the qualifiers, and the damage that they're doing when they get to these TV events is the future of the tournament. But as long as it's in a period of growth, it's going to require those players that are headliners, that have been there, that have done it, that people still have the demand to go and see scattered within these tournaments.
Yeah, absolutely. So the other last 32 games, Colin McGarry beat Keith Della 8-3, and that one got a little bit spicy, boys. Keith not too happy, but McGarry was sensational, Liam.
Yeah, really, really good. And it goes to show again the standard of these qualifier events, how much of an impact that they're making when they get to the major tournament, so to speak. I mean, we've seen McGarry in this tournament average nearly 90 in his first match, then over 95 in the second one. David Cameron, Richie Howson. I mean, there's some real pedigree with these players coming through, and they're a huge danger to the rest of the field. But I was really impressed. I hadn't seen much of McGarry before. He qualified last weekend, but he was impressive considering Diller was probably the best of the 80s world champions we've seen so far on the tour. And I thought, despite a little bit of needle in there, McGarry done well, and it was a good performance from him on the opening night.
Yeah. Yes, Big Johnny, we're not going to brush over it. We will talk about it. Then you had Lisa Ashton beating Paul Hogan. And this was a breakthrough moment for Lisa Gobb, because we'd not seen the best of her on the seniors. We'd not seen the Lancashire Rose that we'd seen in PDC events, in WDF, BDO events. But in this one, the tide had turned.
Yeah, look, I'm still not convinced we've seen the best of Lisa on the seniors stage, but to get over the line in particular, against Larry, who was incredibly steady at the Circus Tavern, just ticked that box off. Against Paul first. Against Paul Hogan, just tick that box off for Lisa, just to get over the line once, allow herself to settle onto a TV stage. Obviously, we spoke to her after she completed that victory, and the smile on Lisa's face when she walked in going, I've won one now, it showed how much it meant to her in that moment. And actually, look, I'm still waiting for Lisa to go berserk, and she can and will go berserk on someone very, very soon. But that was a nice platform to get her into the tournament and just to settle on a senior stage.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Brian Dawson beat Tony O'Shea. It was the first overtime that we had in the last 32. It went to clear, but Brian Dawson got the job done, Liam, and somewhat of a surprise.
Yeah, I mean, Dawson was always going to have to play well to beat O'Shea. I mean, we've seen this competitive kind of mid-80s average from Tony across all of the events that he's played this year and last year. Dawson, again, it just shows the strength and depth of the qualifiers that he managed to come through. And I think any of the players who draw one of these players from the qualifiers in the opening round is always going to be up against it because of their regular match practice. They come through a tough field to get there in the first place. And I'd only seen a small bit of Brian Dawson in the BDO previous to this, but that was a good performance from him to beat a big name with Tony O'Shea. And it proves that he still has the game to be competitive in the seniors tour.
Yeah, moving into the last 16, we've already spoken about Phill and Dieter. Peter Manley and John Part. Look, this game had us gripped. It went to the sudden death leg. John Part was in cruise control. 5-0, 6-1. He had Manley all over the place. However, that Peter resistance, that will to win, coupled with a little bit of jiggery pokery, shall we say, up there, got the job done, Gob. And John Part's expletives as he come out the lift were quite entertaining at the end.
Yeah, just a couple. I can't lie, Manley's had me in bits all weekend. Before the match, he come in and goes, I can't believe the bookies have got him favourite. I was like, but he's won a game. You didn't play at the last event, whatever. Didn't really know what to expect from Manley. He kept telling us he'd won a tournament while he was away. It was a 7-man cricket tournament. He beat his wife early on and God knows else what. But only Peter Manley could walk back into the press room after that performance being 5-0 and 7-3 down, I think it was, in a race to 8, and go, see, I told you the bookies had it wrong.
Yeah, I did like it as well. That, look, I know you're not a fan of it, God, but those dark arts are still there. We saw the darts getting taken out of the ball a little bit slow across the weekend, and those little tricks don't disappear, which I'm a huge fan of.
I'm not convinced they were tricks this weekend. I think Peter was knackered.
It was just a good watch. Then Kevin Painter whitewashes John Lowe. This will be the last time that we see John Lowe on a senior stage. He's taken up an ambassador role, which he's fully embracing. He loves it. Look, John had to be part of this first year of the seniors, and the action still looks as good as ever. just the doubles were a million miles away. The scoring phase wasn't too bad, Liam, but just never looked like hitting a double.
No, and even though Painter whitewash is low here, it's still a joy to watch John Lowe play. I mean, that action it's just irreplaceable, really, one of the best ever. I thought he'd nick a leg early on. He missed a couple of darts at tops there to take one of the early legs against Painter. I mean, it was always going to be a Painter win, but it was good that we could see John Lowe in action again. He'd hinted that this was going to be his last tournament back in after the World Championship early in February. But look, it's just a pleasure to see the three-time world champ play on the stage that one last time, and I'm sure he'll be a huge benefit in an ambassador role going forward.
Yeah, God, but it was nice to have him there on the final day to present the trophy and everything like that goes with it.
Yeah, look, that culmination in the time of the announcement, allowing John to present that trophy, and telling the world that was what was happening, rather than seniors coming out of a post going, John Lowe is doing this, and this, etc. It just rounded off a nice weekend and a nice 3 events for John as well. Look, it's been fantastic to have him in the tournaments. I don't think the board has gone the way that he would have hoped. I mean, look, you mentioned it earlier, scoring phase. I thought he was brilliant against Kevin Painter. He just never looked like hitting a double. He left a finish after 12 3 times in 8 legs. That's not a man that can't play darts. That's just a man that was a little bit scared of it in a double. He just looked a little bit fragile up on stage as well. And I was concerned that actually if he did hit a leg in the Saturday sessions when the crowd was so full, it might have knocked him over.
Colin McGarry absolutely obliterated Peter Everson. A record average for a seniors televised event. Brilliant for McGarry. However, I'm just going to say it, Everson was dog shit.
I think that might be a little bit polite on the way that he performed. Look, with all the invited players, especially in the first year, I don't think everybody's expecting ton plus averages from these guys and going, oh my God, get these guys tour cards, get them back in the mix. These guys can still compete. That's not what the seniors is about. That's not what the seniors is ever going to be about. It's about giving players over the age of 50 a balance of those that haven't quite made it as a pro or coming off the tour, or those that sold out arenas and played all over the world at yesteryear, doing it again for the fans, and then giving people opportunity to go and see those guys. And I genuinely don't think you can say that anybody that's received an invite so far has embarrassed himself or upset himself. You had Warren a little struggle with a shoulder injury at the tavern, but he was open about that before he got there, and you could see how much it meant to him even at that point on stage. We didn't see any of that from Everson. For a man that was as vocal as he was when the Circus Tavern field was announced about not being included, he let himself down massively. And look, yes, he did have a shoulder injury, but I don't think he was in any condition to even be able to feel that at that point. It was embarrassing.
Yeah, even look from the walk on, it was just cringe. And it was just like,
it's not a video I want to see again.
I think with the amount of emphasis that the sing song that he made about not being included originally, there was always going to be more scrutiny on him going into this game. And I think 54 average just, I mean, I know McGarry averaged 95, but it's easy to play sometimes when the pressure's off, but Everson really should have done better. I mean, his words didn't really align with his performance, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's what I mean. If you make the song and dance that was made, and then you go and average between 70 and 75 and lose 8-0 to someone that's averaging 95, I've got no problem with that. But it was just everything that went with it. It was just, yeah. Then Lisa Ashton beat Larry Butler. I was a little bit disappointed in Larry as well. I thought he played okay at the Tavern. Just didn't hit it this time around, and Lisa was comfortable, Liam.
Yeah, again, another good win for Lisa. She looked like she was progressing as she went on in this one. Butler was really solid. I was kind of surprised in February at the Tavern how solid he was back in February. But another good win for Lisa Ashton. Butler probably didn't quite hit that mid-80s average that we saw from him in February. And was probably a little bit underwhelming. But again, 2 wins for Ashton was impressive again to see her notch a second win in the tournament.
Yeah, completely. Lee, Steve Beaton is old enough to play in the seniors. However, he still has a tour card at the moment, so we won't see him until he hasn't got a tour card. But yes, he is old enough. And then this game was closer and better than I thought it was going to be. I don't mind putting my hands up. Terry Jenkins beat Ronnie Baxter 8-5, but I was surprised with Ronnie. I saw him playing an exhibition late last year. I'm not going to lie, he was absolute pony. But he was competitive in this one, Gobbert, and made Terry Jenkins work hard for this.
Yeah, I mean, look, the last time I saw Ronnie was at the World Championship qualifier, and I think he won 1 game in 3 attempts. And he was having severe problems letting go of the dart, which was the concern coming into this. That, again, Ronnie was quite vocal at that point about not being an invited player from the very, very start. He's been given his shot here, and actually, he's another one that mid-75 average, 8-5, against a very, very steady Terry Jenkins, who has been superb at the Tavern, semi-finalist there, unlucky at Lakeside. I don't think Ronnie's disgraced himself at all. And if you'd asked me at the start of this weekend if I thought that Ronnie Baxter would get on the TV stage again, I'd have probably said no. But after that, I can see another invite in there for Ronnie somewhere.
Yeah, no, look, I agree. Then the last game in the last 16, the world champion, Robert Thornton, again pushed by Brian Dawson in this one. A couple of nervy moments for Thornton, Liam, but ultimately his class hold in the end.
Yeah, I mean, I was a bit concerned looking at him at this game at some parts. I just thought how dominant he was in February. Wasn't quite himself in the Masters the last time out, and Dawson looked like he could have maybe taken it at one stage, but again, the experience shone through, and he really took control of the match. And I mean, ended up with an 87 average in the end, which is very, very solid. Especially in the senior events, it will win you most games, and he navigated through quite a tricky tie. I mean, Dawson was obviously full of confidence after beating Ocean coming through the qualifiers. So, like we said, none of them qualifier games are going to be easy, but he navigated himself through to the quarterfinals in the end.
Yeah, and the last one in the last 16, Martin Adams, an 8-2 winner over Bob Anderson. But again, this one was closer, God, than that scoreline suggests. That Martin looked, you could see he's gone away. He's had some work done on his leg, which he needed to get done. You could see he looked a lot freer, threatened the 9 multiple times this weekend. But Bob played his part in this. He missed a couple of darts at a double early on, but that one could have been 8-4, 8-5 quite easily.
It could indeed. And look, the one thing you can say about Anderson, even at his age, him and John are comfortably the oldest 2 players in the field, is that he just does not give up. He absolutely loves being up there. He absolutely loves competing, and he absolutely loves hitting a 180. Although I'm going to be the first to say it, I was gutted that was not on camera.
If you'd have heard the words in the press room, everyone, it wasn't broadcastable because we were fuming.
I went on a bit of a rampage afterwards as well. I can't lie. I went and screamed at some people, and then they were praying for it to happen again. And he went 2 treble in 5 times after the interval, and it wouldn't go in.
Yeah. And as well, the production knew they'd got it wrong as well, because even they were saying, come on, do it again.
Yeah. It's just a big just knowing what that moment meant to everybody at the tavern, for him to reproduce it just would have been mint. There aren't many more iconic celebrations in the sport than that
finger point. So moving in, quarterfinals, always a good one. And actually, I'm going to play the clip first. We had Phill against Peter, which is always enjoyable. But after his first round game, Gob, Mr. Manley made it interesting, shall we say, and just maybe spurred Phill on a bit, because Phill doesn't use Twitter very often, but he'd obviously heard the comments because said he was going to bring the shovel. Here's Mr. Manley at his best.
No, I didn't do it. No, there's no tactics. You mean tactics, Phill? I've never used them in my life.
Box of tricks, is that how you would say
No, John's. I've got a lot of respect for John. This guy Amara, he's going to have it. He's going to have it tomorrow, I think. Who am I playing?
You playing a certain Phill Taylor. I don't know if you know that or not.
He's threatened to hit me over the head with a shovel, isn't he? So, you know, this guy I was around the pool, and this guy come up and said, Taylor wants to hit you with a shovel. Well, I don't think he could lift it now.
So is he going to get the full repertoire?
Oh, definitely. You know, and tomorrow I won't like him again, but the next day I think the world of him.
Classic Peter Manley, boys.
Yeah,
absolutely brilliant.
I was Go on in.
I was just going to say I was disappointed I didn't see the shovel after that, to be honest. But it's just, he's one of them people when he's won a game that you go looking for the interview straight away as soon as you refresh the feed. I do anyway on YouTube, thinking when is this interview going to be out, because it's just priceless, some of the stuff he comes out with, especially ahead of that game against Phill. I mean, that's what he says on camera. God knows what he says off camera. I mean, you boys said he was hilarious. I can imagine that he is.
He's hilarious about a lot of subjects, not just darts as well. He's just a funny man.
Yeah.
But as well, we all went out to watch the walk-on for this one, and it was a little bit frosty, Gob, wasn't it? That handshake wasn't a nice, polite one at the start or at the end. It was we'll do this for the cameras, but Phill meant business in this one.
Yeah, look, as I said earlier, look, the draw couldn't have worked out any better to motivate Phill to reach the final. The chance for a crack at Manley, and then what continues to be a crack at Painter later on. He don't like losing against those two people, and it's just there's the extra level that he needed to produce to keep him going in the tournament, no matter who it was against. And if it's against anyone but those two, I'm not sure he gets up there. If he plays a McGarry in the quarterfinals, or if he plays a Martin Adams in the quarterfinals, I'm not sure Phill Taylor makes the final. But because he had that task against Manley, and then he had the battle against Kevin Painter as well, he just willed it to go on and get over the line in those matches. Yeah, like I said, there was a little bit of frostiness. Manley offering his hand to help Phill up to the stage, and it was shrugged off a little bit. I was like, ooh.
Yeah, it was interesting. And ultimately, Phill got the job done 8-4 quite comfortably. Quarterfinals, this was an absolute belter of a game. Kevin Painter, 8-5 winner over Colin McGarry. Both averaged over 90, a high-class game, but McGarry had chances in this one, especially early on, Liam. And he may look back and just say, what if? Because although Kevin played well, took out some big shots, McGarry had darts to win legs early on.
Yeah, and I mean, this is one of the highest standard games we'd seen. We saw all weekend. I was impressed with Painter, the way he got the job done, but McGarry, maybe a little bit of some nerves there. A big stage quarterfinals match against Painter, against someone of Kevin Painter's pedigree, of course. Missed a couple of them chances early on. Probably played on his mind a little bit then going forward in the rest of the match. But it was impressive from Kevin Painter to get the job done. And again, I mean, you look at them averages, very, very solid. Wouldn't look out of place in the PDC tour at all. So look, he might regret it, but then again, he did very well to get here, won a couple of games, and look, he might rue his chances in that one, but certainly going forward, I think he'll learn a lot from that game.
Yeah, then Martin Adams whitewashed Lisa Ashton 8-0 at Wolf, who played some good stuff. A lot of missed doubles from Lisa, and you could see she scored well again, God, but it was just the doubles, and you could see her getting frustrated on stage because they weren't poorly thrown ones either. I remember 3 at tops, and they were all literally hugging the wires, and there was a couple tops to 10s that were so close as well.
Yeah, and it's not nice being in that position. Like I said, I don't think Lisa was a million miles away, but the first couple of legs, you just want to get one on the board because you're fearing the worst. Then you start chasing a little bit, and then towards the end, it's more desperation. The emotions you go through in that 8-0, just to make it so much tougher to get that one.
Yeah.
And I think that's what Lisa experienced in that moment.
Yeah, completely. Robert Thornton, Terry Jenkins. This was a belter of a game, and Jenkins had Thornton in bother. Not for the first time. Robert Thornton scraps his way to a victory. The tenacious terrier, as we've now recalled him, just doesn't know when he's beaten. But again, signs that Jenkins was doing the right things as well, Liam, and could be a force on this tour.
Yeah, I've been really impressed with Terry in the couple of events we've seen this year. I really didn't expect too much from him. But I mean, he's just so solid. He's just so difficult to put away. Averages mid 80s all the time. Just keeps tipping away, hitting the trebles. Solid on his doubles. And at one stage, I thought Terry had Robert on the ropes and nearly took it, but Robert again all weekend found a way to come from behind and dig really, really deep to finally get over the line. And again, another impressive performance from Robert. But Terry, whoever he plays on this tour, knows that they have a match on their hands, and they're really going to have to dig deep to beat.
We'll touch on that one towards the end, Kieran, about who's coming up to 50 and everything like that. Semi-finals, these didn't disappoint. First up, Robert Thornton beat Martin Adams in an absolute belter of a game, both averaging 92. This was a proper tie, and again, Thornton had to dig very, very deep, Gob.
Very deep indeed. He had to win 6 legs on the spin to get over the line. Martin Adams had him exactly where he wanted him. Thornton flicked the switch a little bit, and at the same time, Martin started to go the other way. It just became that little bit too long for Martin at that point. He's still in incredibly good shape, considering how much older he is than some of the rest of the field. I think when you look at Martin, but the fact that he has had leg issues has just restricted his practice a bit, and he was honest about it afterwards when he come and spoke to us, that it was just too much for him at that point.
Yeah. I mean, I was really impressed with a couple of performances the weekend. It was much improved. I think it was probably his best tournament, even though he reached the final at the Circus Tavern. I mean, averaging 92 is not shabby at all on stage. I thought his scoring was much better, but I was a little bit gutted now when at 7-3 he didn't manage to get over the line. But again, credit to Robert with the way he fought back. I mean, he does know when he's beaten. You think 7-3, 2 more legs for Adams. He was bound to win at least 2 more in the run-in at the back end of the match. But again, dug deep, did what he had to do, and flicked the switch to prevail in probably the highest context. If you look at averages and scoring wise, probably the best match of the weekend in terms of quality.
Yeah, I just loved every minute of it. Then the other one, we went into overtime, deep into overtime. Phill Taylor edged out Kevin Painter 12-10 both players had match darts, both players missed match darts. It swung one way, swung the next, Liam, but ultimately Phill found a way, and there was a couple of bullseyes that he hit in there, and 88 has been his nemesis over his career, but it was certainly his friend in this one.
Yeah, I don't know about you two, but I just felt that Taylor was never going to lose it. I know it was really close and Painter had matched darts, but I felt Painter kind of underperformed a little bit in this, and maybe the whole thing about Phill being back in the semi-final and the nostalgia, the scars before, just came to prominence a little bit in this match for Kevin Painter, because it was well below what we'd have expected from him before. I thought after his match in the quarterfinals that he was nearly the man to beat, and he'd go on to to prevail into the final. But Phill, really good performance, dug deep again, and that, I mean, it was swinging left, swinging right, and eventually he got the job done.
Yeah. So we had a final. It's a final we'd seen before on a PDC stage. It was Robert Thornton against Phill Taylor. And again, at one point, God, we thought that Taylor was going to go on and win. But again, this little guy from Ayrshire doesn't know when he's beat, and Robert Thornton makes it a double. Again, we went into overtime, 12-10. Thornton found a way to win 2 of the 3 World Seniors Majors.
Yeah, he did. And there was a period where the longer the match went on, or the longer that it stayed close or level, you just were giving Taylor the advantage, which felt mad, given that Thornton had won the first event and it still wasn't prime Phill Taylor, but it just had that feeling about the entire event. And again, Robert Thornton just flicked a switch exactly when he needed it. That first dart moved from the bottom of the treble wire to the top of the treble wire, and those tons became ton 40s, ton 80s, and it just gave him that bit of breathing room in the legs that he needed when Phill was throwing tons and 60s back at him. That extra scoring power for 2 or 3 legs turned it around.
Yeah, completely. And Liam, Robert Thornton is adamant. We've got some clips which we'll play shortly, but he is adamant he wants that tour card back. And what we're seeing in this scene's events, I don't think he's going to be a million miles away either.
No, I was a bit disappointed when at Q School earlier in the year that he didn't quite perform, considering the capabilities that he has. And I think that competitive nature, he's had a good year outside of off the tour this year. I mean, he's played a lot of online stuff as well in the live league. Looked really, really good, battle hardened with the matches that he had here today. And I think if he can keep up this solid, gritty performances that we've seen from him in these senior events, that he's going to be thereabouts when tour cards are being handed out at the start of next year, I think, and he'll be vying to get one back.
Yeah, I completely agree. Right, we've got some clips. We'll do the winner first. And we'll start with a very happy Robert Thornton.
Do you want it? Especially against 16-time champion in the world. I mean, come on. I mean, you can't answer any spiel on that.
I was saying, even though it's the seniors tour, does it still mean a little bit more when you beat the great man in a final?
Of course it does. You've seen the way he plays. I mean, come on, he's not practicing. Don't kid me. He's still practicing. Do you know what I mean? He wants to win these. Of course he does. Everybody does. Yeah, I mean, come on, give it a bash. Just because you're over 50 don't mean you're finished.
Love that. Just completely tells it how it is. Then we'll go.
Hang on. I don't think Phill is practicing. I'll say that. And I don't think Phill is.
I think he's thrown a few. I don't think he maybe is doing as much as what he could, but I don't think he's done nothing.
I agree.
Right, here's Mr. Taylor.
This means
Got the grip, and I really wanted to win this. Robert did well. I had my chances, but just clipped the doubles, honestly.
Do you feel that you're now the closest you've been to clicking in the seniors?
Can get better, honestly. Got to go home now and improve. Got to go back tomorrow, which we're going to go back at 6 in the morning, get back so I can practice. So 12 o'clock in the morning, I'm going to get back on the practice board with Matthew, my grandson, and just practice a bit harder. Killed me a little bit. You know, I had to admire Robert because he stuck in there and he hit the right shots at the right time. His finishing was phenomenal. He was brilliant.
Still hurts him, doesn't it? And we could see that when he was stood behind him. He doesn't like watching other people lift trophies on that stage, does he, Liam?
No, and we saw at times, even in the semi-finals, the emotion that he showed with some of the outshots that he was taking, real kind of animated celebrations on the stage. And look, I think he's practicing, maybe not as much as he used to, and it doesn't come as easy to any of these players that it used to. But it's snapping away at him there in the background. There's 2 finals that he's lost in a row. Knows he's probably not quite at the level that he can be at, even if it's not those 100 averages from back in the day. I still think there's another level in there. My only worry would be is that it's so long now into the next event. Is he going to be able to maintain that practice for the next 6 or 7 months ahead of the World Championship next year? It's a big ask.
I think we'll see him booking in plenty of exhibitions and working his exhibitions around as his practice. Also, we've got a couple of other little clips here to play. We'll do Wolfie first of all.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. I mean, it's part of, you know how I feel. It's part of the evolution of our sport, and this side of it, end of it, quite what you like. Yeah, absolutely developing great.
Can other organisations take note of what the World Seniors are doing?
Absolutely, of course they can. Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah. You know, you have to evolve. This is the one thing that's lacking with the World Darts Federation at the moment is a little bit of evolution and growing and spreading your wings, you know, but because at the moment it's all still samey. And I know the guys that run the WDF won't like me for saying that, but I'm sorry boys, it is very samey.
Is that what it felt at Lakeside this year when you went back there to play in their tournament then?
No, not from that point of view. That's a headline tournament, so from that point of view, no. But if you're doing things like the Scottish Open, or the England Open, and the Dutch Open, it's all samey all the time, you know. So that's me.
That's you.
Rightly or wrongly, that's me.
Interesting from Wolfie, boys.
As ever. I think when someone who's been as successful at that side of the game speaks out the way that Wolfie does, then you know that we need improvements and we need changes, and that side needs to move on a little bit and get with the times, perhaps. There's a reason that the BDO darts died out as a whole, that even its TV level tournaments, etc., started to struggle. And I think the thing is, it's not scathing, it's not an attack, it's not personal on anyone, it's just
honest.
It's almost constructive criticism that other organisations need to modernise if they're going to stay relevant. And look, we're seeing great things from the ADC right now. The seniors is committed to growth, and the PDC continue to be the top boys in the business. And at the minute, you have to say the WDF are getting left behind a little bit.
Fully agree. And the last one, which is interesting, speaking to Lisa, she said a couple of really, really good bits as well.
I'll play as long as I can and keep the level as I can, and I'm just enjoying everything. The opportunities I've got, that's what you have to do now, because darts is darts. The opportunities, PDC, Moulders, we're not able to talk hard, anything now, WDF. I'm enjoying everything and just keep going as long as I can.
I know you were disappointed to lose your tour card, but now you've had time to digest it. Is it maybe better because of all the other opportunities? I know you love to play with the PDC, but it limits you, doesn't it, with just the Pro Tour and everything like that, where now you can do everything. So is it kind of better in a way?
It is. I was gutted when I lost it, and I will try to get it back, but the opportunities that I've got and what's available, it's good for me at my age, and I'm going to try to take everything in what I can do and then just see what happens next time.
Interesting that she's not the first high profile, as in terms of not your top end of the game, but your people that have got big profiles and the people that have won stuff that are now openly speaking out about having a tour card isn't the be all and end all anymore, boys.
No, I think we've seen more so in the last year how many extra opportunities are provided to those who don't have a tour card. I mean, yes, look, the money is brilliant if you're successful in the PDC, and if you have that competitiveness to compete at the top level of sport, it's a great opportunity. But with the opportunities being provided outside of the 1 to 8, there is a possibility with Challenge Tour, with the online Darts Live League, with the Seniors Tour now for the over 50s, to make decent money, not without a tour card. And I think it's a lot of these players are appreciating the extra opportunities that they have now compared to a couple of years ago.
Completely agree. Couple of bits on the seniors in the chat room before we move on. There was one. Is there anyone of note not yet 50 that will be 50 when next year's tournament comes around? There's a few on the cusp, Gob, isn't there? That will.
Yeah,
that
we
want
were
to
having
be
a look
involved?
over the last few days. John Henderson will turn 50 in May next year, should he lose his tour card. You've got Steve Beaton looking like he might lose his tour card. Glenn Dorrance, another over the age of 50, whose tour card hopes look pretty slim right now. Then you've got the likes of Wayne Mardo is 49, Colin Lloyd is 49, Mark Dubbridge is 49. Who else did we come up with? Obviously, you've got Simon Whitlock, Peter Wright, Gary Anderson, all over the age of 50, but I wouldn't expect them to be involved anytime soon. Steve Beaton, another, yeah.
Yeah, there's a whole group of them that are now looking at this as a viable option.
Mm-hmm.
Which
especially with the announcement on increased prize money for TV events, more chances, more opportunities.
Yeah, exactly. Like you say, the good news carried on rolling. There will be 4 TV events next year. Increased prize money, guaranteed £200,000 in prize money for the World Seniors events next year. Yes, there are some Open Series events and qualifiers still this year. Gob, have I got that right?
2 Open Series, one in Alnwick, or just north of Alnwick, and then one in Manchester, and then the final qualifier down in Reading in October, November time. Yeah, it's not all done. There was a lot of doom and gloom yesterday that the Seniors was over for the year, and I was a little bit like, no, it's not. It's over in front of the TV cameras. Although we have had conversations about having a streaming board for the World Qualifiers. So hopefully that will return.
Decent. One thing across the weekend in Hull and in Germany, crowd issues again. Paul Hinks had to have a word a few times, and there were a few scathing tweets from players or players managers in Germany. Look, it's not just a PDC issue anymore. It's a darts issue, Gob.
Yeah, I was quite disappointed that Keith Deller's stopped a couple of times. He stopped at the Lakeside, and now he's stopped here in Hull because of shouting out, and that Paul Hinks had to have a word. And I don't understand the mentality of turning up to shout out or whistle or screech when somebody's throwing a dart at the hockey. Like, in between or cheer for your own player, absolutely fine. But the minute you're shouting out, especially in a venue that isn't holding 7,000-8,000 people and individual noises get lost in it, when you are in a venue where an individual noise can carry and be clearly heard and picked out by somebody, I just think it's wrong. And I genuinely don't know what the answer is anymore. You just have to start getting rid of these people.
Yeah, and I think for the most part, the crowd in Hull was very good from what I could hear from the television point of view. I did notice in the Adams and Robert Thornton game yesterday, there was a couple of obvious whistles when they were going for doubles. And I know it wasn't the only match of the weekend, but I mean, singing in tandem is absolutely fine and it creates an atmosphere. But when you, like you say, when you purposely whistle or shout to put someone off in a sport that takes such a high level of focus when throwing a dart, and any minute deviation from the sound levels in terms of a screech or a whistle can put you off. I just think it's totally unacceptable, really. And I'm glad that Paul Hinks called certain individuals not directly out, but addressed the crowd when it did happen.
Yeah, interesting. That is for sure. So from Hull, we go to Trier in Germany, and apologies, we had it on in the press room, but we didn't watch every dart thrown, so if we miss stuff, chat room, you may have to help us out here a little bit. First up with the Euro Tour, there is a huge issue that is getting worse and worse as well. This isn't crowd, this is the 3 buys before a dart was thrown. This is an issue that needs sorting, and sorting quickly. That this is happening.
Yeah, and the issue is
every Euro.
There is a solution to it, quite a clever solution to it, that the PDC Europe created, but because it didn't create it till event 2 or event 3, the PDC won't allow them to implement it halfway through the tour, and we have to wait till next year, in that the qualifiers will create a reserve list, and the next players up will, the home nation qualifiers or whatever, the qualifier closest to the event will create a reserve list, and those next up on that list will be invited. But because of the consistency issues with the PDC, it doesn't look like they're allowing that to happen this year, and the number of buys at events at Euro Tours and Pro Tours, this isn't just a Euro Tour issue, is becoming a bit of an issue.
My issue with that is, although it does solve part of the problem, if a seed pulls out, then it should be adjusted accordingly. And I say that in relation to, with the greatest of respects, some of these host nation qualifiers are nowhere near good enough. And if a seed drops out, take this weekend for instance, James Wade should have got a shout. If they're doing it that way, the call should go to do it that way first, for me.
Yeah.
Not just, and I'm using him as an example here. I know he played this weekend, but he's one that's pulled out late before. Gezi gets the doesn't want to play, he pulls out on a Thursday. You can't replace Gezi with someone that has won a qualifier from deepest, darkest Germany.
No, but then the issue is the travel time and whatever else. How do you solve that? Do you take 17th seed to every event on the premise that they might play and pay for them and accommodate them? Because the players are getting fed up enough of travelling as it is, especially if they're not going to throw a dart.
I don't think...
Then you get the question of who funds that. I get what you're saying, but the issue is the travel time, the journeys, especially in the current airport climate.
You schedule the TV correctly. That if they're going to try and get it right, and we're using James as an example because he's not in the seeds at the moment and he's on that cusp. Is he 17 or 18 or whenever he is? That seed pulls out Thursday night. The call goes to next, and we'll use James because he is the next one on the rank. James, there's a gap. You're not here. You're next. Do you want to try and get here? If the answer is yes, you schedule it so he plays last in the night to give him every opportunity to get there.
I get it. It's just more difficult at the minute, given the fact that half the players didn't have their own luggage.
We'll come on to that in a minute as well, because that was quite funny. Evening, Mace. Hope you are good. Sam says, if Gazzy pulls out, then the seats should just all move up on the journey. Yeah, but what we're saying is that they, like James Wade hadn't qualified for these Euro tours, but he would be the next one that jumped up to a seed. But he didn't qualify. So you'd have to get in there. 100% it's a risk. But with the modern technology in darts available, you can now take darts in hand luggage. Gob's looking at me blank there.
No, I'm not sure it's on all darts. I'm not sure how Jeff Smith gets around. He removes the points.
I was about to say that even if you haven't got the Swiss point technology, you can remove the points from your darts so they are separate, so they're not classed as a weapon.
I don't think that's a solution. I think for the rest of the year, what PDC Europe need to do for any player based in the UK, the next time they qualify for a Euro Tour event, is take an additional case with a couple of spare sets of darts in and a couple of spare sets of flights and stamps. And PDC Europe just get a massive suitcase or flight case that travels around with a stage setup so that every player has a backup set of darts that travel with a PDC Europe until the end of the year.
So we don't get Merv King from Callum Ridge darts.
No. And honestly, for the sake of one flight case, to chuck a couple of cases of darts in, it gets moved around with everybody else. Nobody's going to go pick up the wrong case, are they? It's not these professional darts. It's not your local tournament where somebody's going to go half-inch in your dart set. Everyone's in the same position at that point. Yeah, right, snakebite's an exception, but he'd have to pick a set, and actually that might work for him. Stick a couple of gold elements in there, that's what he's stuck with. Right, but the amount of cases, the modern cases, can hold 2 or 3 sets of darts made up. I've seen cases that can hold 4 sets, fully made up sets of darts. Chuck them in, PDC Europe, look after them. Give one person from PDC Europe the key, even make it lockable, right? Don't let the players just go in and access it as and when. They go and pick out their own set in front of a PDC official when they need their set of darts, if they don't arrive with them for travel. Don't be relying on it as a system, but as a backup, it just makes sense for that group to look after one set that travels with the rest of the stage setup. It's such a small basic thing that will protect all these players to at least have their own set of darts. Clothing, different matter, but get away with a polo shirt, a spare pair of trousers and shoes.
I did like Mervyn King playing in the PDC security shirt.
Yeah. See, the problem is they'll have to have one whole lorry dedicated to snakebite.
Yeah, sorry, you're overweight. You have to lose a few of those, Snakey.
Look, when you look at it deeper, and we'll get onto it in a minute, Mervyn King not having his darts has effectively cost Mervyn King a spot in the match play, which put him in a very, very difficult position to be there.
Yeah.
Through absolutely no fault of his own.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree on that, which we'll come on to. But moving on, Saturday afternoon, like we say, we didn't watch all of these games because we were in Hull. We've seen bits and bobs of them. But James Wilson beating Johan Ingstrom, look, we're not going to go through every game, but Scott Williams was the standout on the afternoon. That result was huge for him because he is now banging contention for the match play, boys.
Yeah, and I know it gets branded, it changes every week, but Scott Williams, in my opinion, is the best non-tour card holder in the world right now. I think his form, the money that he's gathered this year from these events and PDC events in general is just staggering. And I mean, he's really used the live league as a springboard, and has shown again that you don't necessarily need a tour card holder, and he really is going the right way about getting a tour card, the difficult way, really.
Yeah, completely. Again, good wins for Cameron Menzies and Ian White as well. Very good weekend for Diamond. We'll talk about him later on. The evening session, Martin Lukeman again adding more money to his tally, which is great. There's the result in question. Sebastian Bilowetsky beating Mervyn King 6-4. Mervyn King, bit of an odd time for him right now. Callum Ridge 6-3. Madas Razma over the line, and then the start of what was a brilliant weekend was Roby John Rodriguez beating Danny Noppert 6-5. And going back, Noppy had an opportunity there, and it could have been a different weekend, but Roby was sensational after that. Moving on to the Saturday. Again, there was a certain party at Matchroom HQ, which we've seen all over social media. So there wasn't one of these made for Saturday evening. How rude of them, boys! They had a lovely time.
That explains a lot. Not only was there nothing there, there was no updates at all for 3.5 hours.
That's because they were all at Maskell's enjoying 40 years of Matchroom. Have you not seen it on social? It looks amazing.
I saw the party, but it's only just now that I put 2 and 2 together.
Yeah. There was no Matchroom boxing show this weekend, and all the darts boys were there that I've seen from Instagram stories.
I was upset that one graphic World Seniors went out late, and then I realised PDC hadn't posted for 4 hours while a tournament was going on, and felt much better about my job. This was seed again. This was just absolutely insane. I'm going to read them off the draw bracket that I've got in front of me. Although all the results it's up there, it's easier for me to read it off the screen. First up, the number 1 seed, Departed, Roby John. We touched on him earlier. This was a fantastic performance, averaging nearly 97 to absolutely smash Gezi Price. And a missed opportunity for Gezi, because a good run here meant he's in touching distance of that world number 1 spot again. And if he'd have gone deep here, the chances of him going to Blackpool as number 1 seed would have been huge. It feels weird talking about that because it hasn't for a while.
Yeah. Look, I can't help but think that if he didn't have an exhibition on Friday night, he wouldn't have been there anyway. But the fact it was an opportunity missed. Gabriel Clemens beating Daryl Gurney 6-5, and this is Clemens' best performance on a stage I can remember for a long, long time, averaging 98.5. Liam, we haven't seen that Clemens for a while.
No, I mean, we've seen before the capability of Clemens. Hasn't quite kicked on recently as much as we probably expected him to in the last year or so. But it just shows that the ceiling is very high for Clemens when he does kick into gear. And a big scalp for him over Daryl Gurney last weekend.
Yeah. Then Nathan Aspinall safely through against Jermaine Watamina. Scott Williams, this is the result that put him in huge match play contention. He beat Johnny Clayton 6-4. Johnny Clayton's averaged 103 and lost. The ferret not done a lot wrong there, but Scott Williams is going places, and we'll touch on him when we look at the race for the match play. The number 4 seed, Jose de Souza, got pumped 6-1 by Wesley Placier, averaging only 80. Jose de Souza. There are huge question marks. I know we say this every time, but he's not answering them. He's not giving us anything at the moment, Gob. And the more these performances are there, the more we're going to say, was it a fluke? Was it a one-hit wonder from Jose de Souza?
I'm not sure it was a fluke or a one-hit wonder. Jose de Souza was, for a period of 18 months or so, an incredibly capable dart player. You look at the fall of Glenn Durrant as well. Ian White's dropped a lot. Adrian Lewis. They're all players that have struggled in the last 12 to 18 months to back up previous form, if you like. Lewis a little bit more extended than the others. So yeah, look, I don't think it was a fluke. There's certainly going to be a question around, did the slam being played behind closed doors help Jose? Because you saw his performance at the World Championships against Michael Barnard in front of a crowd that was, quite frankly, terrible. And then out of nowhere, Jose de Sousa becomes one of the most capable dart players in the world. So look, I think to call it a fluke is incredibly harsh. But I think given that he struggled a little bit with COVID, he said that the jab affected him a lot. He does seem to have a little bit of a snatch in his action, which says struggles to cope with pressure a lot. Yeah, it's not a fluke, but I think there are things that have crept into his game over the last 12 to 18 months. And a lot of players have said this as well. Even Barney said it. When you've got a target on your back, it's completely different to being the unknown and the chaser. When you're being chased, it's a different world, and I'm not sure Jose's coped with that at all.
Everyone knows my thoughts on that, but yeah. Then Martin Schindler edged out by Manos Rasmus 6-5. Rob Cross beating James Wilson 6-5. Christopher Tysky surprisingly beaten by Luke Woodhouse Liam 6-3. That was a little bit of a surprise.
Yeah, good result for Luke Woodhouse. Christoph, I mean, it could have been, if it had won, it could have been a big opportunity for him to go on a run this weekend. Just kind of seems like a little bit of a nearly man sometimes with Christoph, that when there's the opportunity presented to some of these players that are on the cusp, they don't quite take it when they need to. But look, good performance from Luke Woodhouse, and another one of the big boys was, or the top 16 boys, fell early on.
Yeah, and then Ryan Searle looked out of shape, out of sorts, and did having that week off and not going to Niedenhausen maybe bite him a little bit. Only averaged 18. Martin Lukeman disposed of Heavy Metal quite comfortably in the end. And then Bilowetsky against Bunting was a really good game. Bunting edged it 6-5. I think he took out 104, something like that, in the decider. Could we had that one on in Hull watching it. Damon Hetta edged out Callan Ridds 6-4. Dimitri Vandenberg went berserk gob, averaged 110 against Florian Hempel. Not bad.
He's just got these ridiculous games in here, Dimitri. It's just, and look, he is getting back there at the minute, but it's getting that B game, that level, to just creep up to that 95, 96 mark again, because he does still have the odd stinker in him.
Yep, completely. Luke Humphries edged out Cameron Menzies 6-4. Menzies averaged a ton and lost. Now, here we go. Lucas Fainick came from behind to beat Dobie 6-4. Both averaged over a ton, but this is where the tweets and comments start. I must admit, we had it on mute, so I didn't hear it. Chat room, you're going to have to help us out here, but Dobie far from impressed from the German crowd when he's throwing for doubles in big moments towards the back end of a game.
Why are we surprised? We seem to have had the same conversation for a number of years now. That's how long this feels like it's been going on, or at least it feels like I've been calling it out in this manner, that it's just been allowed to escalate and get worse and worse and worse, because it creates moments that are supposedly good for telly and good attention, etc. And the fact we didn't stamp it out 3, 4, 5 years ago around the world, wherever, just means it's become the accepted norm, and it's not right. These players are there trying to make a living, and you can almost, look, at some point, the home nation players or the England players, that they've had it their own way for a long, long time, having lots of events in the UK and the big TV events, but they're just going to stop going to Euro Tours. They're going to play Pro Tours, and they're going to try and qualify for TV events, etc. Or they're going to start putting pressure on the PDPA or something. Something's got to change now. Too many players are speaking out. We've seen it high profile with Gezi. We've seen it with Gary Anderson's had his issues in the past. We saw Kim Hybrecht speak out a few weeks ago. Dobie's spoken out now. Joe Collins had his issues. Daryl Gurney followed Chris Dobie and Kim Hybrex this weekend. And the more vocal the players get, the more likely it is that something has to happen about it. If it doesn't, the PDC are effectively hanging these players out to dry, though. Because what will happen is crowds won't take to them anymore.
Yeah.
So you do feel sorry for the players in that position.
Yeah. Joe Cullen, speaking of him, he lost 6-5 to Ian White, missed 7 match starts, got his suitcase an hour before he went to the venue. And then also Dirk lost to Jeffrey Dejuan. And again, Joe and Dirk will be kicking themselves, Liam. They were both had multiple opportunities in these games.
Yeah, and 2 players that would have fancied themselves to go on a real good run this weekend. I mean, I was really surprised to see that Ian White beating Joe Cullen. The whole luggage situation didn't help him either. Dirk, we've seen some really good stuff from him recently, and Jeffrey not so much in the last couple of years. He's really kind of hit a downward slope. But 2 players who really would have fancied themselves to go on and lift the title on Sunday, and just some big missed opportunities that you really can't afford to miss at the top level.
Yeah, and then moving on, Cup Collection Day, we'll run you through them. Rodriguez beat Clemens 6-4. Aspinall ended Williams' hopes in Trier. Aspinall averaged 103 again, good signs for him. Rasma beats Placia. Cross beats Woodhouse. Lukeman edged out by Bunting. Hetta beats Vandenberg. Humphries beats Lucas Vainick. And Ian White beats Jeffrey Dejuan. So quarterfinals going into the evening session of the Euro Tour, quite a mixed field when you look at it. Rodriguez, Aspinall, Rasma, Cross, Hetta, Bunting, Humphries, White. God, that's an interesting final 8.
Interesting. Yeah, look, it is interesting. It meant there was plenty of opportunity for a new European Tour winner, etc. If I'm a fan there watching, I'm a little bit disappointed, though, because there is the absence of so many of your big boys. You've literally got, well, at that point, no Premier League players left from this season. All right, Gary doesn't play in them.
Looking at, you say no Premier League players. None of the top 10?
Yeah.
On crossing 10th is the highest person left in going into the quarterfinals. Granted,
and whilst
haven't got
that story in one way, in that you've got nobody there and there's opportunities and chances, and sometimes you do like those tournaments. If you're a fan that's there, that's gone to a Euro Tour expecting to see the names, you've had 3 big withdrawals, you've had other players lose out, you're there in the final session and you go in, well, where did everybody go?
Yeah.
I mean, if you were asked to pick a couple of quarterfinalists at the start of Friday, you would have been a while picking this quarterfinal lineup. Probably Humphries, Hetta, Cross you might have got, but the other 5 or so names, it might have been a little bit more difficult to have predicted their run to the quarterfinals this last weekend.
If you've picked that 8 as your quarterfinal, I want you to pick my lottery numbers.
I'm not sat here being disrespectful to that 8, by the way. Roby John is in very, very good form. Nathan Aspinall is on the way back up. Rasma, capable. Bunting has looked very, very good again for the last couple of years since that big run at the match play. Hetta looks solid. Ian White back in a match play, in a Euro Tour quarterfinal, as he pretty much made his living from for the last 5-6 years. But just given current form and positions, etc., that's just not the 8 you would have picked.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. It's nuts. But semi-final lineup, and this is where it got interesting. Rodriguez edged out Rasma in a last leg decider, 7-6, and Humphries absolutely obliterated Bunting 7-0. So the final was Roby John. Regardless of this result, what a weekend for Roby John in terms of his profile, and that race for the match play, which we're going to come on to shortly. But although it was great, Liam, will there be part of him now at home today with a little bit of regret because he was in a fabulous position in this one?
Yeah, I mean, there's two sides to look at it as well. I mean, it will be a great learning experience. I'm sure it won't be his last final that he'll be back in. I mean, he's shown so much promise over the last couple of years. But Humphries, I mean, he's really run into someone who is technically a top 10 player. I mean, he's really progressed the last year to 18 months. Luke Humphries really kicked on. I mean, it's not a surprise that he's winning titles regularly now on the stage, and it's only a matter of time until he probably wins a big one in the not too distant future.
Yeah, but Luke Humphries, what a remarkable season it's been to date. 4 European Tour wins now, 3 in a row for him because he didn't play in Zwolle. So 3 on the banks for Luke Humphries, boys, and this is a special talent now. We've said it for a while that Luke was going to be good, but now we're just seeing how good potentially he is going to be, Gob.
Yeah, look, he's got the advantage and not a lot can go wrong with his throw. It's pretty basic, but it's pretty solid. It's just up and down. Certainly got the belief in himself. I just worry sometimes a little bit that he does a little bit too much talking for my liking. Look, again, we say this an awful lot. From our point in the game, players talking and saying is massive, but there's conversations about the Premier League and whatever else that happened from Luke. And sometimes I think you just have to be patient, wait for those opportunities. We've seen what happens sometimes when you do speak out against the PDC. Those opportunities can become further and further away. But look, he's in great form, great shape, looks competitive, is absolutely loves a stage, which I think is massive for somebody young at this level in the game. Him and Dimitri seem to have this knack of being better players in front of 1,500 or more people than they are in front of nobody. And that's where the money is. They've just got to constantly get there, but they're at a level now where no matter what they do on the floor, they're pretty much going to be there.
No, if you get in the top 16, it's like the exclusive boys club, isn't it? Once you're there, you're pretty much in everything. It's just a matter of not losing first round and TV events, just ticking over money and hibernating in there. You look when James Wade, and this isn't saying James Wade's a bad player, but he went through a spell where he wasn't the James Wade that we know, but he just did enough all the time. Even though he wasn't making quarterfinals, just being in these TV tournaments, you accrue enough money, so it's hard to get knocked out of that 16.
Yeah, it's very similar to Gary Anderson as well. I mean, a couple of big runs in matchplay finals and World Championship finals in recent years. I mean, no easy feat by any means, but just does enough, has the money accrued to just be in all of these tournaments and keep picking up money regardless of how well you do in these tournaments. There is a lot of money on offer even for first round losers. And just keeps topping up the ranking money.
Yeah, absolutely. So from there, we are going to look at now. We can talk about it now because it is on the horizon. There are only 4 Pro Tours left for these players to get to the Winter Gardens. And here it is as we speak. The race for the Betfred World Match Play is on your screen, gentlemen. And right now, if you're Ross Smith and Adrian Lewis, you're a little bit worried.
Yes. Well, you are and you aren't. Look, they're in the Pro Tours. They are the men in position. They've got the men with targets on their back. But if they perform at the same level as everybody else chasing behind them, they're in. So they are a little bit worried, yes. I'd be more concerned if I was 10,000 away than if I'm currently in that spot. But you just know that you've got to go into this event and perform, which you'd have to have done that if you were 1,500 ahead. You'd have had to do that if you were 3,000 behind, sort of thing. So
So
you'd still
couple of
rather be
points.
green at this moment than not.
Yeah, a couple of points first of all. We'll do the order. We'll do the main one first. Dave Chisnell and Ratajski in 15th and 16th. Will they be slightly concerned that maybe Serd and Aspinall could catch them for a seeding place?
No.
Yeah, I think what Aspinall has shown recently, he's shown the potential that he could potentially go on and win one of these events in the next couple of days. Searle as well obviously has the capabilities to go on and win one of them. I think with the form that Ratajski and Chisnell have shown recently, may see them become, they are a little bit vulnerable potentially. A couple of early round exits and the first couple of days, and the nerves will be ramped right up. They're certainly not safe either on the rankings side of things and here. So I think Chisnell and Ratajski have reasons to be concerned, but it's in their own hands again. They are in there at the moment, so they know that a couple of good runs could see them qualify.
Evening, Craig. Hope you are good. Right, so from the Pro Tour order of merit, barring someone going and winning their first title, how far down the list do we still think is in reasonable consideration to make those final places?
Scott Williams.
Yeah, I agree. Scott Williams as well.
So
anything else is just you're looking at final or better, and then backing it up for the rest of the weekend. And Scott Williams is the absolute furthest I think anybody's going to come from behind without a title.
fair enough. Chat room, are you agreeing? Scott Williams, is he that, barring someone going winning one? So, my next one. Are we all saying Clemens and above are safe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what's coming. You know what I'm going to ask now, don't you?
Piss off.
Chat room, get involved as well. Who makes it? Who takes those final 3 places for the Betfred World Match Play? Personally, I think Gilding hangs on.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think there'll be 3 of them replacing there.
Yeah. So for me, it's 15 and 16. Across the 4 days.
I just think with the form Scott Williams in, the potential of Whitlock, Van der Voort, and also the form of Rowby John and Keane Barry, I think there's huge danger to Adrian Lewis and Ross Smith in that chasing pack.
Who makes it then, Liam? Who are you going for? Who takes the final 2 places?
I think Adrian might just cling on. I think he has the potential of going on 1 or 2 runs with the. I think he has the potential of going on 1 or 2 runs that just might keep him in there. And I think Rowby John will just sneak in. Something saying Keane Barry might get in there as well, but maybe that's just a little bit of bias taking over there. So I think Rowby John will replace Ross Smith, and Adrian Lewis might just hang on.
For you, Gob?
Anyone got a fence I can just hop on for now?
No, sorry. Our fence has got razor wire all over the top of it, so you're not sitting on it.
I'm not convinced Gilding doesn't get sucked back in, you know.
Well, that's up. You're entitled to that opinion.
If it was one weekend, then I'd be like, nah, maybe not. But the fact these guys have got 4 chances, you're going to see big players drop out. We already know that a couple won't be there. Ricky Evans is a last 16 away on day 1 from being level with Andrew Gilding.
So who do you think's taking those final 3 places?
Ross Smith, Scott Williams, and I'm stuck between Gilding or Van der Voort. I think Lewis drops out.
I really, really, really want Adrian Lewis to be at Blackpool. But right now, I sit here worried. And I so want him to be there. But I just think not playing those 2 in Niedenhausen may come back and bite him in the backside.
Yeah.
I would love Andrew Gilding to get caught. Not again, he's a good player. I just don't enjoy watching him play. I think he's very uneasy on TV to watch.
Yeah,
like he can play, no question, but I just think he's uneasy to watch on TV. If I could, I would love Keane Barry, Vincent van der Voort, and Simon Whitlock to take those places. But I think Gilding holds on, and I'm going to go with Keane Barry and Vincent van der Voort to find a way in these 4 Pro Tours to take those final 2 spots. Chat room, what are you saying? Oh, it's going to be mental, isn't it? These 4 Pro Tours are literally going to be. Oh.
Do we reckon it goes down to the final day?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100% for me. Because those chasing groups, some of them will lose first round at least one day. Convinced of it. So, it's going to be so close. Beats in the problem is I'm not convinced Rowby is that good on the floor. He's a bit of a showman. He likes to put on a show, and the act he puts on is a very much a stage game. I'm not sure that translates to the floor. That's why I think he misses out. Agreed. Right, a week in darts as well. We haven't got stuff clipped up, but we're going to talk about it. First of all, the ADC stuff. Steve Brown and Dan Reed picking up event wings, and I have to say, I didn't see any of it, but the stuff on social media, boys, all looked amazing from the guys there.
Yeah, look, they're doing a good job. There was one line that I was a little bit concerned about with the ADC. It's that they are an organisation for amateur darts, but Steve Brown said that they run it professionally, and whilst that's good and bad, I'm just worried about the sort of connotations that sends. Other than that, look, the event looks fantastic. Social media coverage continues to get better and better and better, but I'd be very, very careful about calling anything that is there for amateurs professional, even if it's just the management of the events. Just don't go confusing that, because I think there's that level of player, that semi-pro player that would be happy to be in that, but it will put bottom end Super League players, etc., off attending, and that's who they're ultimately there to serve at the moment.
Yeah, no, I get that, but saying your event's professionally run, I don't dislike that. To be fair,
I mean, they had post-match reactions. The stream with the production was good. The lighting was good. I thought it was impressive from them. I mean, if you kind of compare to the WDF, that can be questionable at times. It was quite impressive from that point of view.
Yeah. Evening, Cal. Hope you're good, mate. Remember, use your white stems. Look forward to you debuting the new shirt in Blackpool.
Callum Ridge now hold a record. Is he the only man whose darts have been beaten twice on a Euro Tour weekend?
Yeah, that was nice of you to lend Merv a set as well, mate.
He's not going to like that. I might get a less polite response than shut up, Phill.
Really? I know I'm going to get asked for it in a second. Always good to have you on, Cal. So it's Champions Week in the Live League as well, and I'm just getting up the. I've got to say, what an absolute belter of a week this is for Champions Week. So Group A starts tomorrow morning. Will be Conan Whitehead, Gavin Carlin, Jean Van Veen, Graham Usher, Josh Payne, Robert Owen. Group B, Matthew Edgar and Nathan Girvan. Group C, Andy Jenkins, Conor Heenahan, who hit a fabulous 9-darter at the weekend. David Pallett and Robert Thornton. What a 12 that is, gents, for Champions Week.
It's stacked. And in terms of historical names that people have heard of, I think Group B and C have got that a little bit more, which just shows you how good the players in Group A have played.
Yeah. Oh, the young Dutch lad, Jean Van Veen, I knew absolutely nothing about him, and he came in and was smashing 100 averages for fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's really difficult to call a winner out of any of them players, really. I mean, they've all Group A's that have been probably the most consistent over the last couple of weeks, and even some of the names in Group B and C. It doesn't get any easier for anyone that doesn't qualify straight off out of Group A for finals night.
Yeah, and Lee Webby is on comms this week. So you'll have Webster calling in that. Harry says, what's your opinion on the Live League becoming boring on Twitter? Just idiots, just have nothing better to say, mate. If they think the Live League's boring, they don't watch it. Our numbers say otherwise. Is the thing. And look, there are people think that we haven't invited certain players. There have been invites sent out to many players on the continent as well that have either just not responded to an invite, not even answered an email, can't for work commitments and for whatever. So look, the people that step up and play, it benefits them. Have we missed anything else in a week of darts, boys, before we open up question time? Probably.
Sure, we'll be reminded by the chat room.
Yeah. No, Daniel, I don't. I think the Wizard will miss out just, mate. Don't you worry, Elvis. There is some news dropping soon. Don't you worry. Johnny, we can say it. Look, John Gwynne's son put a message on social media Saturday night.
Yes.
Yeah.
Look, it's heartbreaking to read that. You don't like to say it, but I think we're all just waiting for the post from the family when it happens, that we are going to lose another legendary voice broadcaster of the sport, and some of his lines will go down in history, will never be forgotten. But more importantly, what a damn nice man John Gwynne is.
Absolutely bang on.
One of the best.
Met him, spoke to him once, and that was at the Circus Tavern. He called in the final for the seniors, and it's just got. I never realised just how small John Gwynne is, because his voice is so big and it just carries so far, no matter where he is. And yeah, look, it was heartbreaking to see that post from Andrew. I think I was the first one to spot it from the team that were in Hull, and it just sent chills around a little bit for a few moments. A lot of people just didn't really know where to look or say for a couple of moments. And like you said, we wish the family all the best at this time, but it does look like we are just waiting for Gwynne to be reunited with Sid and Dave and the rest of the team.
And he says, do you know the actual numbers watching? I do on YouTube. I don't for sporty stuff, but I'm certainly on YouTube. They are fantastic numbers per day watching.
Shall I tell them? I've got it in front of me. Average for the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, go on, mate.
It's about 12,000 a show for the last few weeks. Give or take a couple of thousand either way for evening or day sessions or whatever else. That's just via YouTube.
Yeah, that's just via us.
Yeah. And sporty stuff moved up from evening sessions to take everything, so it's clearly doing numbers for them.
I mean, the averages alone and the competitiveness of some of the games. I mean, some of the averages James Richardson hit last week and finished 5th in the group was just ridiculous, really. I mean, any of them groups can go anyway. It's really difficult to call a winner, which makes for good viewing all the time.
Yeah, agreed. Lee, I must admit, we don't hear a lot of the commentary from the seniors because we're upstairs, so I couldn't comment because we didn't hear a lot of it, did we, God? Because we didn't have sound.
Nope.
So yeah, I couldn't comment because we didn't hear it.
What we did hear, I whacked a headphone and watched along on my account a couple of times, was Matt Edgar's debut on commentary that we haven't touched on. I thought he was fantastic. I thought that he was a little bit nervous in the press room. He wouldn't quite admit it, I don't think. But look, you could clearly see he'd done his research. He went into it properly. He gave good insight into the game from a player's point of view. And I thought he complimented and worked with both the other commentators. And we did hear him pretty well. And that's not easy to do on your debut. To make your debut in that environment is incredibly tough. And I thought Matt dealt with it really, really well.
Yeah, completely agree. Oh, Jean's in the chat room. Hope you are good, mate. Congratulations as well. Fabulous week for you in the live league. Well done, mate. Cal, if I can, mate, you know I will. Ask away. Unless it's something stupid.
No comment. Before he answered it.
I knew that was coming because that's what he says to me on Snapchat all the time. So what else did we have here? Is Humphries in the top 3 favourites for the match play? In terms of do we think, or in terms of how the bookies are going to price it? If you're talking about bookies pricing, no, because they'll be. I think you've just made it, Cal. I think you've just scraped in. Just about done enough, lad, I think. In terms of form-wise, yes, Luke Humphries is right up there as one of the favourites right now.
He is, but he won't be priced that way.
No.
Definitely not. Because, again, we've seen it with Phill Taylor over this weekend. You have to protect against the guys that have got the history of turning up and doing the business.
Right now, because I've got it up with the title sponsors, Betfred, Luke Humphries. Luke Humphries is the 6th favourite. So, as we stand right now, Michael Van Gerwen is the 5-1 favourite, which is very generous considering there are lots of question marks around MVG. Gerwin Price, 2nd, 11-2. Peter Wright, 7-1. Johnny Clayton, 8-1. Michael Smith, 8-1. Luke Humphries and Dimitri Vandenberg, both 10-1.
I think that Dimmy is not a bad price there. I think so many of the top boys are out of form at the moment. It's hard to really get, or for one reason or another, just not quite been at it recently. That there could be an opportunity for someone to come outside. I know Dimmy's won it before, but it could be one of the most open match plays we've seen for quite some time.
Yeah, completely. So that's how it's there. Hunt will be 6th favourite yet, there or thereabouts. I did hear a few rumblings about nobody from the seniors will be in the Grand Slam later this year. No, and they shouldn't be yet either. Look, long term, if the seniors can prove viable, you may see it, but not in its first year. Was never ever going to be a consideration. And look, as long as the Grand Slam is ranked, having players from other organisations in just doesn't really sit with me as it's a ranked tournament.
I agree, but I also don't like the slam. I don't like it being ranked. I don't like the number of qualifiers, the 8 quarter-year fielders as qualifiers. I think you've had enough chances through winning tournaments. I don't like how late the criteria has been announced once again. I'm not a massive fan of the format after the groups. The trophy's a bit naff. No one likes Wolverhampton. Anything else? Other than that, I think it's a great tournament.
Other than that, Cobb's having a lovely time. So, yeah, no, I wasn't surprised at all. Did we hear the interview with Wessel Nyman? Yes. I thought it was a good piece. I think it could have gone further as well. But I liked it. And like I said on social media, he's been given a second chance with his talent. Just don't waste it.
He's not been given that chance yet. He will get that chance, won't he? Like, he's still serving
February, February, I think it's up. So, yeah. Mace, yeah, 1 of 5 on my shortlist yet. Don't disagree. To be fair, Cal, I wouldn't mind the Grand Slam in Newcastle. Is the brand new arena?
I would.
Oh, I don't know. Is the brand new arena in Gateshead open yet? Because it could be there.
I've been to Newcastle once, and they wouldn't let us in Wetherspoons because one of the lads was wearing trackies. What sort of Wetherspoons has a dress code?
A proper one.
Who do you think you are?
It's not like Everson spoons to pick and choose, really, is it?
A couple of people asking about the draw for the match play. Yeah, I would expect it to appear on PDC socials around 2 or 3 o'clock Monday afternoon. God raises the eyebrows there. He knows.
Appear is the optimum word.
So yeah. Yeah, look, we don't know how MVG is going to be yet. He could be undercooked come the match play. Yeah, where's the right, again, get your questions in. We've got about 10 more minutes to rattle through. I apologise now if you're in Blackpool the second weekend of the match play and you see Gob roaming around on a stag do.
Up the match play.
Um,
A few more in there. So Peter says, do you think Thornton will retire or join the seniors is bound to lose his tour card in the next 18 months? I don't think Glenn will retire. I think he's getting a lot out of his coaching at the minute. I think it's given him something to focus on away from the Oki. If he loses his tour card, I'm not convinced he will go back to Q school. Not yet, anyway. I think he'll explore as a 3-time WDF World Champion or BDO World Champion. I don't think he'd be too proud to go back in, play a few opens, get himself back in local darts. There's absolutely no way he wouldn't get invited to the live league, etc. No, I'm not involved in the running of it, but a name like Dozer, free and able to play for a week, is going to get an invite to things like the live league. And I'd suspect he'll be invited to the World Seniors as well at some point. You've got a 3-time world champion that speaks pretty well, promotes pretty well on social media, is still capable of playing at a decent level, and will endorse the tour in a very good way. So yeah, look, there are avenues for Glenn Durham right now.
Oh, completely. Someone asked about Peter Wright. Yeah, Peter Wright is on the entry list for the Pro Tours. So yeah. Michael's choice not to play in these Pro Tour events. Was I surprised? No.
I'm surprised he's not playing in the last 2 or something, or giving himself the first 1 or 2 and then giving himself time. Just a selection of these Pro Tours. Get himself in the country, get settled. I appreciate that the draw won't come until after these block of 4, which then becomes an issue to work out when you're playing, etc. And there's an argument to have time at home with the family. But where he does lack that match practice, don't get me wrong, he played to a pretty decent level in Amsterdam. But this reluctance to play on it again at the minute is a little bit of a concern. You can't begrudge him for wanting to play in front of an Amsterdam crowd. He doesn't get to do it very often.
No. I know 100%. The Pro Tour dates.
I thought it was Thursday to Sunday, not Friday to Monday.
So I was just looking.
Yeah.
No, it is Friday to Monday.
Oh. Might have to check our calendar.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, James, you know.
Bob says, will there be more people playing in the seniors next year? There'll be more players in the World Championship. That was announced over the weekend. That field is moving to 32 players. As for the rest of it, your guess is as good as ours. Hopefully there are more players at qualifiers and at the tour events, etc. that can continue to show just how good that side of the over 50s game is. And who knows where the tour can go from there. MVG's wrist not feel good. We're not sure. Who of the PDC darts refs is the best dart player? I think it's... George Noble played county for a bit, didn't he?
Yeah, no. George used to play quite a lot. I don't know what he's like now. Russ used to play a bit.
County. Russ used to play a bit, and I know Kirk played to a half decent level at uni.
Yeah, Kirk plays a bit as well.
Yeah. But in terms of the best, not a clue. Has Barney's return been underwhelming? There we go. That's one to sink our teeth into for a couple of minutes.
Whilst we do that quickly, yes, Mace, the Euro Tour qualifier is on the Thursday. Has it been underwhelming? Yes.
I mean, he's won a Pro Tour, which I didn't see happening.
I think because he won that so early, that's why I think it's underwhelming. The fact he won it early and has not kicked, for me. Does that mean we can get the Barney alarm out? For me, I was expecting, because he won the Pro Tour so early, I was expecting a little bit more. Yes, Daniel, I'm in Blackpool all week.
Yeah, Barney, another good name for the seniors in the next couple of years, potentially.
That's what we're waiting for, isn't it? Barney versus Phill at one of these, one more time. Barney v Phill at the tavern.
Yeah. Yeah, James Barney said Barney is 43rd on the tour card race. And considering this is his second year, that's a little bit underwhelming for me.
Potentially.
Oh.
And there it is. Because TV tournament wise, he's only qualified for the Players' Championships and the Worlds as well. He's not really qualified for anything else.
See, it's difficult to push on if you're not in them TV tournaments as well. I mean, a quarterfinal run at one of them put you back on the map. You get the rank and money up. You qualify for more tournaments, and then you afford you more opportunities to kick on. If you're not in them tournaments, it's difficult to make a big impression.
Yeah, agreed. Yes, Craig, the Fallout Bar will return for the match play.
Yay!
To be fair, we normally get some early finishes at the match play. Not like the Premier League. Right, last couple then, guys. We have got about 5 minutes left, so make them good. So then God can go and get some proper sleep.
It's a good question from Matthew in the chat room.
If the senior was there before Barney came, would he have come out back? Look, I know it's all well and good saying it, but if COVID hadn't have hit, I don't think he'd have come back.
I mean, the competitive nature of some of these players will always mean that they have that itch, and they'll always believe deep down that they can still compete at the highest level. But because of the grueling nature of Q School, if there was all them other opportunities that are available now, exhibitions, etc., then more than likely probably not, but they weren't available at the time. So
good one from Jackie. I like this. Says, will the ladies' match play spring any surprises? If so, who?
I don't think there'll be a surprise winner.
I agree. I think the final will be the final we'll think, but I think Eileen de Graaf may be the spoiler. I thought she played amazingly at the last block of women's series. If anyone spoils the show, it may be Eileen. What do you boys think?
I mean, it's difficult because it's a TV tournament on stage. I mean, can they replicate some of the form they've shown on the floor, some of these players, when it really comes down to, I mean, the top female players have so much more experience than some of the lower players that we haven't seen so much in front of the TV cameras and on the stage. So I think that would count for a lot going into the match play.
Yeah, I agree, and that's kind of my thinking, that some of the youngsters and that have done amazingly. Chloe O'Brien, Katie Sheldon did absolutely superb to qualify, but going up on that famous stage for the first time may just be a little bit daunting. We've seen it do some silly things to seasoned pros before, let alone novices. Right then, last one before we wrap up. Just really looking forward to the women's match play. Yeah, no, I agree. I am as well. I know Mace is as well. I've been going to be doing a bit with Mace on the women's match play from Blackpool. Also, dropping tomorrow, we do have an extended hour-long sit-down with Mace dropping. It's in the back end of YouTube. So that will be dropping tomorrow for you all. Covered some really good stuff with Mace back end of last week. Took a while to edit and export, but it is there and all ready to go. That brings us to an end of the show this evening. Been that's really enjoyed tonight, boys. Liam, enjoyed the stint.
Yeah, it's good to be back. Boyce is out tanning himself, and I look forward to jumping in a little bit more as the match plays just around the corner. It's good to be back with you boys again.
Yeah, got superb in the hole, lad. Absolutely smashed it. Remember, if you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe to the channel, turn notifications on, give us a follow. All social media platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We have got a TikTok platform now as well. We don't really know what we're doing, but go over and have a look at it. And of course, here at YouTube, all the reaction as it happens. The live league returns tomorrow, 9:30 for Champions Week, all on the line. I've been Phill, Jack Garwood, Liam Riley. Absolute pleasure to have you all along for the last 2 hours on Monday, and we will see you all next week for the Live Lounge.